Hey y'all, welcome to SecurityTalkNow.com, a video podcast series with me, your host, Chuck Andrews. That's right, Mr. Friends of Chuck. Happy trails. See you at the next upcoming show. Hey, welcome to SecurityTalkNow.com. I'm Chuck Andrews. You probably know me as Friends of Chuck. Hey, we got a great show today. Hey, this little poll thing that's going on with LinkedIn, very powerful. Everybody is starting to use it in a very big way. You know what? Somebody out there in LinkedIn land, in the security world, very good friend and colleague of mine, very smart man. Well, he put out a very interesting poll. Well, Security Talk Now grabbed right onto it because remember, we're about the buzz and chatter of security around the world. And let me tell you, we're about to get into some buzz and chatter. Hey, my special guest today, my good friend, well-known in the security industry, Michael Gips, JD, CPP, CSYP, CAE. Mike, is KGB in there?
No, that's the only one. But thank you. I may be pretty well known, but it pales compared to Friends of Chuck.
Stop it, Mike. That's not fair. You ran listen, how many years with ASIS International did you serve? And look at all the countries and people and influencing really cool and great things that you got to do there.
Yeah, it was a great honor. I was there for 25 years, 13 editor of the magazine, another 7 running the CSO roundtable, and then a few years doing other things. Lastly, I was chief knowledge officer, so ran certification, standards and guidelines, learning, and content.
Yes, and you know, as chief knowledge officer, you have that wealth of experience, right, in the industry and the relationships. I think we really met when you were running the CSO roundtable, as we called it. Back then, and you know, we got to do some really interesting things as we grew that organization. And I think they have changed the name since from CSO Roundtable to
Center for Leadership and Development.
CSO Center for, exactly. Well, listen, we got to get to the poll because look, all the buzz and chatter is around this recent poll that you did, and you and I are about to get into it. Now, you promised to bring some fruit. I promised to bring some cereal. So we're going to get into some serious pros and cons here. So I'm looking forward to this. So why don't you do the honor of explaining what motivated you, what you wrote, and what you put out there. And we're going to put it up on the screen for everybody to see too.
Sure. So this was actually the first poll that I'd ever done. I put a lot of content up on LinkedIn. And I said, you know, people put it in the simplest polls and they get a lot of engagement. And I thought, I want to get the community talking. What could be interesting, polarizing, food for thought, and controversial? So I thought of, okay, a lot of people, when I was running the CSO roundtable and beyond, would say, okay, I want to be a high-level security executive CSO. Which certification? I want to pick one certification. Which one should it be? And it tended to be around the CPP, the ASIS flagship credential, the CISSP, which is the ISC squared, pretty much the flagship credential, and then Certified Fraud Examiner, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, down sort of near where you are.
Yep.
And those I considered the top tier executive level certifications. Now there's a lot of other ones. There's a lot of good ones. The other organizations that I mentioned have other ones, like I think there's CISSM and ASIS PSP and PCI and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
You can only put 4 options in a LinkedIn poll. And so I put other, and I didn't want to have too many anyway. I got 60,000 views. That's about 4 times as many views as I've gotten, for anything else. So fantastic. Early on, so I probably have more connection to our physical security professionals than cyber. So CPP jumped out to a big lead. But then I got some friends who are CISSPs who kind of called out CISP Nation and said, hey, do you agree with this? And then CISSP caught up, and way in third place was that never caught up. Not to say it's not a great certification, certified fraud examiner. So as it ended up, CPP held on 44%, CISSP 42%. It's 6% for CFE and then 8% for other. And people had all sorts of others. I think CSFP.
Well, wait a minute, Mike. Hey, listen, we got to get into this, buddy, because
all right.
Listen,
all right.
Friends of Chuck is a CFE, Friends of Chuck is a CPP, and I just haven't had time, even though I do work deep and dark in the cyber world, the CISSP, you know, it's there. But let's talk about this because the CFE is a part of the ACFE, right? Which started right here and is today in Austin, Texas. Now, don't get me started on Texas. People know how I feel about our country. So that's a whole different conversation. All right. But 85,000 members of the ACFE, they've been around only since 1988. So just let that settle for a minute. And look, to understand and appreciate things, and I think you would agree with me, we have to put them in context, right? The ASIS, absolutely. No question about it. 1955, 66 years, argument can be made somewhere between 25,000 and 35,000 members, depending on where we're at. Fair statement, right?
Yep.
And I'm pretty clear that it's somewhere between 5,700 and 6,000 CPPs. Is that fair? Would you agree with that?
Well, you're in the ballpark. I recall when I was there, it was closer to 7,000, but maybe there are fewer now, but it's the order of magnitude is correct. It's not anywhere close to 85,000.
Exactly, which is interesting. Yeah. Double the tenure on the planet Earth, right? So people need to, right? Part of why we're having this discussion is to put all this in context, and we'll get down to the real winner by the time we're done, right? As the case would be. And then the CISSP, right? Who gets all the love and money and resources and attention, right? It's the Chinese and the Russians that are motivating the popularity of the CISSP, and they can't get enough people, right? Listen,
that's true.
I work in that world, in the dark cyber world. I get to work with all this great talent. Some of them have a CISSP and some of them don't. And that takes us to a whole new conversation. Look at all the comments that came through. And I took the time, and you responded to, I think there's 120 comments alone. So clearly this is in front of everybody's out of 1,800 votes, I think, that came through, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of interesting. 60,000 views, 1,800 votes, right? And I think overall you had 119 comments, and apparently 85 people liked it with a thumbs up, right? I don't know what that means, right?
I'm not sure if that's good.
You could clap, you could thumbs up, yeah, whatever the case happens to be, right? But it's really interesting, right? When you really think about it, because all the money is going to the cyber practice.
It is
the greatest demand, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, great question. The money is going to cyber. The authority is going to cyber. Cyber is a board level issue. And however how much we want to make physical security a board issue, it generally is not. And that automatically makes cyber, a bigger presence in the corporation. And if you don't know cyber, and I'll tell you that I have a CPP, I would get a CISSP or CFE, but and my ex-employers at ASIS would probably kill me, but I chose CISSP. I voted in my own poll because it's powerful. And for a physical security practitioner, it's powerful because it shows that you can master the strategy. You don't have to know how to
diversity, right? Diversity,
exactly. You understand the principles. The principles are the same, but it scares people away. It's almost like a foreign language. How technical it is, but you don't have to know how to configure a firewall or an intrusion detection system, or which port lets in which traffic. You have people to do that. but you have to know how it
Absolutely.
operates, how it, what risk it brings into your organization. Generally, holistically, how it adds value to the organization in every place it interfaces with the business function. Yep. And it does have a physical security aspect to it, the CISSP.
Sure does.
I'm told, I don't know how good it is, but I know that the CPP, their information security module, needs to be updated. Let's just say that it's a little bit dated. I mean, the principles are there and they're good, but it's a little, it could stand to use a refresher. And I think it's going.
You're right. But look how fast technology changes. I mean, they would be updating the manual every 90 days. Truly, right? Yep. Just to be fair to them, right? But I agree with you, what you're saying, right? But you're dead on, and we're going to get into some of these comments. I want to bring more context though to this, so people really understand. So some people said, "Hey, this is it's not fair to CFE versus CISSP versus CPP, physical, cyber, and fraud, right?" So you got all these members and great success of ACFE as a model. There is an association, which you can appreciate. You worked in that business for 25 years, tremendously successful with both their training, their certifications, their membership conferences, everything, right? They've done really, really well. But the CFE and the CISSP, I think, bring the money, maybe even more. I would tell you the CFE does. Look, if you're going to go work for the Bureau, the FBI, you're going to work for accounting forensics, you're going to have a CFE. All right. Now that you're going to have to, it's a must have, right? As part of that. And I've heard that right out of the mouth of agents and analysts, over the years. And I could tie, because I worked in that field as a CSO when I was in the fraud investigation field in the financial sector for 7 years. CFE was at the very top of the list. Now, the CPP continues as the gold standard because it's been around the longest. If you're going to be a CSO and a security director, you better have your CPP. And the CISSP brings that roundedness that you got to have in the diversity as someone, whether you're physical or digital or physical, right? And that's kind of my assessment. And you know what? I think Mark, I'm going to shout out, I think it's Mark Fulmer, right? Mark is well known in the industry. I think he said to get all three, right?
Yeah. Mark is a great industry advocate and a thought leader. So yeah,
very much so. I think if you could do that, right, I think that's the very best scenario. But that's how I break it down. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I would, but that's a lot of time and a lot of money. And you don't have years to spend. A typical time amount of time spent studying for one of these things is several months, and it can cost, between the exam, the study materials, books, and everything, it can cost a couple $1,000s for each one of these, and you've got a full-time job. Easy, right? Yeah. And if you don't pass it, then you got to go back. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. So, it's a big deal to keep going after certifications. So some people just want one. It's like, all right. And I get a lot of this, they ask me which one. And earlier on, 20 years ago, I said CPP. Now I say CISSP, because as much as I like the CPP, I have one. I respect people who have it. It's a hard exam.
Yes, it is.
There are plenty of CSOs who don't have CPPs. There are, just go through the list of CSOs that appear in Security Magazine every year in the where they rank the security departments, and look at how many of them have post nominals. And there are a good number of CPPs, but there are also CISSPs. There are some CFEs. There's some people with nothing. Right. People who go on the board of ASIS, some people don't have CPPs, and they really want you to have a CPP, right? I mean, so is it necessary? Definitely not. But is it good to have? For sure. But the CISSP, if you're looking to show your chops and you're, especially if you're a physical security guy and you want to converge security function, I would grab that CISSP. And right now they're probably hanging me in effigy at ASIS, but I love the CPP and I encourage people to get it.
Sure.
The only reason I don't have a CISSP because I don't really want to overdo it with the certifications. I already have 3 certifications, and at a certain point, I think it kind of starts turning on you. It's like, oh, this person's all about certifications and not about actually.
You need a new signature line.
Yeah, I know. Well, for certain things, I take off certifications. If I'm just doing the security thing, I'll do CPP, CSIP, but I won't put JD or CAE because they're irrelevant to it.
So let's break it down a little bit further and talk about exactly where you're going with this, which is, it's really the KSA, the knowledge, skills, abilities, competency, experience, right, of the individual. Mm-hmm. I know when I hired people for different roles, and I tried to exclude human resources from my hiring process. I really, honestly, right? I did not want them involved any more than policy would allow. So I always took the time to go through and see, it looks like, is this the right person? Sit down and actually talk to them, right? And have a conversation and understand how they think, personality, culture, knowledge, skills, degree or no degree. Now, look, I have a few degrees. It's really, for me, an indicator of hard work and dedication.
Yes.
Right?
And you've hit it right on the head. I'm glad you brought this up because there's some people who are experts at taking exams. That you can rack up certifications, and a lot of them are very good at what they do, but absent experience, temperament, empathy, and other kinds of aptitude, you could have 100 different certifications and not know what the heck you're doing. And then on the other side, there are people who just don't take it, don't have time. They don't do well on exams. They get nervous for those sorts of things, who are fantastic practitioners. So I don't want to say, put too much emphasis on a certification. However, if you gave me, and I had this debate on LinkedIn with somebody who's kind of trashing the idea of certifications. And he said, I'd rather have somebody with, empathy, with business acumen, with blah, blah, blah. And I said, exactly, me too. But if I had Chuck Andrews, who had all those things, and then Chuck Andrews CPP, who had all these things, I'm picking Chuck Andrews CPP just because it shows that he went the extra mile. Sure. That's dedication. That's commitment to continuous learning. That's not easy. None of those exams are easy. That's time. That's wanting to better yourself. And that puts it over the top. And when I kind of put it in that, we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and I didn't want to belabor it. It's like at that point, it's let this thing fizzle out. But exactly. I mean, all things being equal, the certification puts someone over the top. But you can not have a certification and be the best practitioner in the world. Like I said, there are great CSOs who don't have CPPs, don't have CISSPs or CFEs, and they're model practitioners. They're much so. Yeah, they're excellent leaders.
And another piece of that, Mike, is that individual, right? When they get, look, if you get your CFE, your CPP, your CISSP, you need to get the interview. This is the goal. Get the interview. And that's where things start to resonate for you. And if you have the certifications, plural, one of those 3 or others, there's your delta to get you over the hump. Right. Because you've got to get to the interview. Look, I got to get that job. No. Your goal, and I help a lot of people get jobs in all different sectors. My job is to get them the interview, and then I'll coach them. Speaking of which, we can't talk about coach without talking about Jeff Snyder.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Please.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, nobody does a better job in coaching and recruiting than Jeff. And, people don't know he's going through a lot of struggle, and our prayers are out there for him. But nobody knows emotional intelligence like Jeff. Agreed, Mike?
Agreed. And for the past couple of years, he's been my executive coach. and really helped me with my emotional intelligence. And he teaches a program. I forget what it's called. Actually, it's right here. It's the Clifton Strengths, and it lists your 34 strengths / weaknesses. And he figures out where you are. And it's like, if you don't have certain aspects of emotional intelligence up high, he figures out how you can get there using other aspects of your other traits, other aspects of your personality. And he really helped me do that and make me a much better professional, much better leader, mentor, team member. So yeah, he's going through very difficult times. He's in late stage ALS. He closed down he was a recruiter, but for the past
week,
years,
right? He
closed down last week. His coaching. I texted him yesterday. He's in as good spirits as he could possibly be, but he's such a good person, and he's helped so many people. It's just, it's heartbreaking.
It really is. And we keep talking about this. I don't want to be able to even finish the show, right? It's really tough, but nobody has demonstrated a level of passion to help other people in this business. I mean, was it securityrecruiter.com? He founded this in like the 90s.
Yeah.
Nobody even knew what a domain name or URL or HTTP was, address, right? I mean, way ahead of his time, right?
He was.
God bless him. And, we're just, he is leaving a legacy, though, that will not be forgotten in this industry. I digress. The best to Jeff, and we'll stay in contact with him while he's still with us. The poll. So bottom line, if you had to pick CFE, CISSP, or CPP, and I think you made pretty clear what you would do now, but do you break it out for 3 different areas, or where you want to go? Because fraud is huge.
Sure.
Right. And cyber play, huge. And then I kind of see that still, if you're going to be a CSO or a security director, you better have your CPP. Can you and I agree on that?
Yeah. The whole question was provocative, and it was, and the questions that people raised were completely appropriate,
right.
Because it's a simplistic question. And that's, you can't ask layered, textured, nuanced questions in a LinkedIn poll. It brought out exactly the type of comments. I wasn't fighting people. I was mostly acknowledging that they had a good point. But sure, I mean, if you're looking to go into white collar crime, you're looking to go into that area, you should get your CFE. Yep. If you're focusing on cyber and, that's what you love, the CISSP or one of the other certifications, doesn't have to be that one. There are multiple others.
Sure.
And for the same thing with CPP, if you want to be a physical security professional, you want to be a systems specifier or installer, or there are SIA certifications, and there's the PSP for physical security professional. But by all means, take those.
Right.
The way I worded the question was kind of influential, powerful, made it sort of an executive level. And the ones I consider, the most the executive level are CPP, CISSP, and CFE. So CFE, there's a certain aspect of it. You're doing examination. You're getting into the weeds, right? Though some of the CSOs I most respect have the CFE. So it's obviously, a serious and well sought after credential.
Yeah, very, very much so. I think my favorite word of all the hundreds of words that you wrote in response was the word dichotomy.
Oh, I said someone was creating a false dichotomy. That's right. I remember, because they were saying, I would rather have the person with experience and, tact and blah, blah, blah. And I said, but
you want them over, Mike. You want them over. And they were in equal agreement that it'd be great if the candidate had both, right? In the end. Yeah, it was really interesting seeing some of the responses, right, as part of it. But it's good to put context and have this kind of dialogue and conversation, right, going on, so people really understand.
Hey, not to cut you off, but a bunch of people reposted the results. I don't remember who this was, but one of them a lot of CISSPs or a lot of cyber people were commenting on it. And some person said, I've never even heard of the CPP. This whole thing is really distressing me that I don't know what this is. It's getting my goat. Like, what are they talking about?
It's like,
you know.
Well, it's true, right? Which is really interesting, because then you go to Kalia and, you know, all these other groups, right? And some of them are, you know, very tactical, right? A CFE is, I mean, really, they're teaching you hands-on, right? You know, federal and state laws and you know, the processes and procedures around fraud. And keep in mind that ACFE, and someone can correct me on this when they post in comments once this is posted, but I think 40% of the ACFE are accountants.
Yeah,
that's the percentage, right?
And you knew Joe Wells, right? He
Joe
came up with the whole thing. He's an industry legend.
Industry legend, right? Right here in Texas.
Right there in Texas. Yeah. Exactly.
Just a quick little plug there, right? Wait a minute. We need some, when we say that, we got to have a little, okay, there we go. That's enough. So back to the poll. So do you think we're going to see, I see more polls coming out constantly, right? I think we're going to see a lot of this. Do you?
Yes, because people see how much engagement it gets. I tell you, this has got about 4 times as many, whatever it is,
likes,
views or whatever
tags
than anything I've ever had. I could have put, you know, something like, you know, free Bitcoin, and it would have gotten less than that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
This is good, right? So I think, you know, I was really thinking of a Rocky Balboa moment here, right? You know, on the show today, but I think we're in agreement, right? And once we put some context around each of these, and it's important, you know, that people have what works for them in their swim lane, at least initially, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a CFE and you're a fraud examiner, or you're an analyst, or you're a fraud investigator, and you want that opportunity to be the security director one day, I would tell you, go get your CPP. If you want to make a lot of money, get your CISSP.
Right. And you don't have to have a 30-year plan, right? You can have a 1 or 2 year plan, and you got your CFE. It's like, now it's time for the next thing. You know, this is great, but I want to go to cyber. You know,
each of those organizations have scholarships. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Right. There's some of them that they don't get filled. Right. And there's opportunities. So please know that when you go to examine, and contact each of these respective associations and ask the questions. How much does it cost? How long will it take? What's the best way to do it? And I have my own philosophy on that I've shared hundreds of times with people between the CFE. Now, listen, if they add any more domains to the CISSP, I'll never get there. I don't know, we're up to 9 domains or 10 now, or 11 or 12. Important, no question about it. But it says a lot about somebody, because that is not an easy test at all, right? There's a lot, and you really got to have a good understanding of all things digital, and it changes so fast. That's what makes it so challenging. Technology is changing every 90 days. You can't keep up with it, right?
Yep.
As part of that. So any ending thoughts you want to share, Mike?
Well, I would encourage a certification if you're the type of person who, you know, likes that sort of thing. You know, it does add value. You could certainly get away without it. Again, there are a tremendous number of very successful professionals, very capable, who don't have it, don't necessarily need it. But I think it's a sign to yourself, your staff, your employer, your colleagues, your prospective employers, you know, what kind of, the respect you have for continuous learning and self-improvement. And because remember, you don't just get the certification and then let it rot. There's continuing education, right? You have to keep up. And, you know, there a lot of these things are, you have to attend you have to, maybe attend a webinar and write an article or be interviewed or something. It's stuff that adds to your knowledge, it adds to your credibility, it adds to your capability. And while it's not a sine qua non, just throw out a term, it is it's helpful and it's valuable. So I would encourage, anybody on the fence to, seriously look into it.
Absolutely. Hey, GSX coming up, Orlando, Florida. I think it's September 27, 28, and 29.
I'll be there.
Hey, so in July, ISC West, yes?
I'll be there too.
Awesome.
Yep. Come find me. You and anyone who listens to this. And then you could tell me, you don't agree with my views on certification, which is fine. As long as you have a considered view, you've thought it through, and it's not cockamamie. I'm happy to listen to you and respect your opinion.
Well, Mike, it's kind of unfair, really, because you do have a Juris Doctorate, right? And so, it's like how to argue and usually win.
Well, I do have a Juris Doctorate, and I do know debate. But fortunately, this wasn't a debate. So I think this was more of a spirited conversation. If it came to debating, sure, I could do it, but that's not.
And then you have to use words like dichotomy.
Dichotomy, right? And sine qua non, and things like
right.
that. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing you there. I'm going to be there as well. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Now, the fun part of this is I don't know if people are going to watch all 40 minutes of this. And this is the longest show I have ever done in my entire life. And there's a reason. You and I talked about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's going to be the return of Texas Night.
Ooh, wow.
Now, that'll be fun.
That will be fun.
We more info to share in Orlando, right? So kicking things off on Sunday night, the 26th, get people excited, give them a reason to come, right? And in addition to, because we really it's a hybrid event, right?
Yeah.
So we really don't know, but the more fun things, and that would be Friends of Chuck mantra number 2, know how to have fun, which is preceded by get shit done. Which is ending in having this big dream, right? You got to have something to look forward to and have fun and meet people and network, because even though we're doing this virtually, right, you cannot discount what we've been doing for years, which is face-to-face time with human beings.
I agree. I'm going to turn off my virtual background.
Okay.
And because I show you what I have in my hand right now.
Oh, look at that. Friends of Chuck Texas shaped challenge coin. Those are very rare.
Yeah.
Don't sell that on eBay.
I'm not. This is, at least until it goes up to $1,000, I wouldn't dream of it.
Well, listen, Mike, it was really awesome to catch up and talk about this, because obviously it was very important to people, and you called it right. People were very interested in the meaning of this, and their opinion counts. And I'm glad we were able to have not a debate, but a welcomed argument over and putting context behind it, right? Because without context, you got zero meaning or zero understanding or appreciation, because apparently some people don't know the CPP, ASIS, ACFE, CFE, CISSP, ISC squared. What is that? Right? Some people have no clue and need to know. So hopefully we were part of that education curve, and we flattened the curve today. Yeah,
and was animated, but not adversarial. So, and hopefully instructive.
Awesome. Mike, it's great to have you on Security Talk Now.
Thanks,
John. Chatter of security, right? And we did it today. Look forward to a whole bunch more. Look forward to seeing everybody at GSX. Pay attention, or there'll be some media posts on this, and also maybe the return of Texas Night. You'd never know, right? It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chuck. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.